Alright, response video to some jerk, I'll post a link, who has, he's posted, I don't know, 40 minutes of Saturday Stickam, and that's not the reason why he's a jerk, but that's one of the issues I did want to bring up. Is it's the whole idea of, like, let's say that becomes the tradition, that people record Stickam and then they decide to put that up as a video on YouTube. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just unsure. I don't have any problem with it personally. What the hell? I don't think I'm going to let that intimidate me. I don't think I'm going to censor myself. But there are some weird questions about it, just because there are times in Stickam when you're sort of having personal conversations. Because, there's certain people in the room, and you'll have a conversation, and you won't feel uncomfortable about talking about some things. Some things that, I wouldn't want to have to argue or discuss on YouTube, because they really don't have anything to do with what I'm trying to accomplish on YouTube. And so that's sort of a dilemma. And then there's the other players. I don't know how much, all these people are all now stuck with, a segment of context. And then the video he's put up it's okay, its quality isn't terrible, but his lag is different than somebody else's lag, is different than somebody else's lag. So everybody hears a different conversation on Stickam. And the one I heard here isn't the one I heard. Okay, so even though I was in the room, there was a lot more I heard being in the room than I heard on that video. So my lag was less than his lag, obviously, and obviously I heard all of what I said, which isn't on the video. And so that's another part of this. If people are going to do it, I guess I would say that they should at least have some sort of honorable intent in doing it, and not to distort a perspective, but to, be as honest as they can. So maybe they should preface the production of the video with the statement that, yes, this is 1 hour or 1/2 hour out of a 10-hour conversation, because obviously after 10 hours or after 8 hours or 6 hours into a conversation, the way the conversation has been bent is changed, and there's a context of time. And obviously if you've argued something for the third time, you're not going to be nearly as patient in explaining something as you were the first time it might have come up. And so it really just, it's not a very fair portrayal. It's as far as I'll say. And I just don't know whether it's a good or bad thing, because I would imagine it probably will make other people kind of apprehensive about opening up their mouth on Stickam if they've got to be worried about it showing up as a YouTube video. It just goes, it just stands to reason, as the statement goes. And I don't know, it just seems like it might take some of the fun out of Stickam if that happens. Some of the good of it will be degraded, but that just might be a reality we have to deal with, because I don't know. Legally, I just don't know whether it can be, whether it's a public or a private conversation. It is on kind of a weird ground. It's on the grounds of a private corporation, so in some ways it's something Stickam owns. It's not public property, so to speak, but it's available publicly. So now we're in that dilemma of, what are the rights and what are the responsibilities, I guess would be a more pertinent word. So anyway, that's one subject. Alright, the second half of this is, the asshole who did this posting is doing it because he thinks he's making an argument against something, and he's not. But it's really irritating, because then he finally, I'll post a link to the one video where he makes a couple comments, and I responded to at least one of them. But I'm not going to engage a conversation with the fucker. Sorry, a little bit of an interruption. So anyway, the guy is bitching about virtual reality and the fact that I say that there's no, which I think is reasonable, there's no point in doing it if you're going to leave the external circumstance the same, whereas in want is going to exist outside of virtual reality, or going to have 6.5 billion people living outside of it, then you're going to have a system where it's just not going to work. There's no point in doing it. It's either going to be owned by the rich then, or there'll be other kinds of corruptions. But the bottom line is it doesn't solve the problem. Then virtual reality is just more special sauce for the Big Mac. It's just some other indulgence for the privileged, or some other segment of the population. And even if it was something that people went into or out of, or they just use as a toy or a video game or whatever, some other escapism device, I just don't see any practical worth in that. The point of virtual reality is to put consciousness in an environment where it can be what it is by nature, which is needful and gluttonous and selfish. And if you're going to leave all that need and gluttony and selfishness on the outside world, you've gained nothing. And the key point is that all people would have to give up on the outside world, the ones who chose to stay out there, would be the right to reproduce themselves. And that the fact they can't even concede that much, they can't even give that much to the idea or the concept, is just so silly. I mean, it's well, whatever. There's just no point in discussing with people that can't see the problem that overpopulation has caused in this real world, and the practical fact that there's no way. I mean, you might be able to feed the world, but so what? Life is not bread alone, as the saying goes. You really have to. There's no way you're going to be able to create a physical world where people are going to be happy, the majority of them, and where they're not going to have their backs broken, and they're not going to be exploiting each other and living a lot of hours of mediocrity or suffering. And so whatever, that's the reason why I just say there's no point in doing it. I mean, I have no ambition to create candy for humanity. I have an ambition to fix the problems that exist in the dilemma of consciousness being part of an insane natural system that makes no sense whatsoever to anybody who's going to rationally, and I mean rationally, scrutinize it. Things eating each other and exploiting each other. If you're exploiting your equal or even your better, that's a zero-sum game. You're not going to win. You can't win eating your own feet. And that's what we're doing. We're chasing our tails, and at least in virtual reality, it would be a harmless pursuit. So that's the point. Virtual reality eliminates the harm of life. Period. And if you're not going to fix that, fuck it.